What happens when a Hollywood star walks onto one of daytime television's most respected stages and decides that the rules don't apply to her? In just 32 seconds, Rachel McAdams went from welcomed guest to persona non grata, all because she couldn't keep her composure when Whoopi Goldberg asked her a simple question. The View's set was buzzing with its usual energy that morning. The audience packed the studio, cameras were rolling, and Whoopi Goldberg sat ready to welcome her guest with the warmth and professionalism she's known for. Rachel McAdams walked out to applause, waving at the crowd with a smile that seemed friendly enough at first. But something felt different today. There was an edge in the air, a tension that nobody could quite name yet. Whoopi started with the basics, welcoming Rachel and asking about her latest project. Rachel answered, but her responses were clipped, almost dismissive. She kept glancing at her phone, barely making eye contact with Whoopi or the other hosts. The audience started to notice. You could feel the discomfort spreading through the room like a cold draft. So, Rachel, you've been in the industry for over 2 decades now, Whoopi said, trying to steer the conversation somewhere more engaging. What keeps you passionate about acting after all these years? Rachel looked up from her phone with an expression that could freeze water. You know what, Whoopi? I'm not really here to answer these surface-level questions. I thought this show had more substance than that. The studio went quiet. Not the good kind of quiet, but the kind where everyone holds their breath because they can't believe what they just heard. Whoopi's eyebrows raised slightly, but she maintained her composure like the professional she is. Well, we're just getting started, Whoopi replied calmly. What would you like to talk about? How about we talk about how this show treats guests? Rachel shot back, her voice rising. How about we talk about the way you all sit here and judge people like you're somehow above everyone else? The other hosts exchanged glances. This wasn't going the way anyone expected. Whoopi leaned forward slightly, her voice still measured and controlled. Rachel, we invited you here as a guest. We're trying to have a conversation. If there's something specific bothering you, we can address it. But you need to help us understand what's going on. What's going on? Rachel laughed, but there was no humor in it. What's going on is that I'm tired of people like you acting like gatekeepers. You sit here day after day, telling people what to think, how to feel, what's right and wrong. Who gave you that authority? Whoopi's patience was remarkable. She didn't raise her voice or match Rachel's energy. Instead, she spoke clearly and firmly. Rachel, this is a talk show. We share opinions. We have discussions. That's what we do. But right now, you're not discussing anything. You're attacking me and attacking this show for no reason that any of us can understand. No reason? Rachel's voice climbed higher. The reason is that I'm sick of the hypocrisy. You preach tolerance and understanding, but the moment someone disagrees with you, you shut them down. You're all the same. Rachel, Whoopi interjected, her tone still professional, but firmer now. I need you to take a breath. You're making accusations that don't have any basis. We haven't shut you down. In fact, we've been trying very hard to have a civil conversation with you, and you've been hostile from the moment you sat down. The audience was completely silent now. Some people looked shocked, others uncomfortable. This wasn't the entertaining drama of a spirited debate. This was watching someone unravel on national television, and it wasn't pleasant. Rachel stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. You know what your problem is, Whoopi. You've been doing this for so long that you think you own this space. You think because you've been on television for decades that your opinion matters more than anyone else's. Well, newsflash, it doesn't. Whoopi remained seated, looking up at Rachel with an expression that mixed disappointment with determination. Rachel, I'm going to ask you to sit down and either have a respectful conversation, or we're going to need to end this segment. End it then, Rachel snapped. I don't need to sit here and be talked down to by someone who thinks she's royalty just because she's been on TV forever. This whole show is a joke. "You're a joke." That was the line. Whoopi stood up, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of someone who had reached their absolute limit. "Okay, that's enough. Rachel, you need to leave. This behavior is unacceptable. I don't know what you're going through or what happened before you came here today, but you don't get to come onto this show, disrespect me, disrespect my colleagues, and attack everything we've built here. You're done." Rachel's face flushed red. "You can't kick me off. I'm the guest. People tuned in to see me, not you." "Actually, I can," Whoopi said, her voice steady and sure. "This is our show. You're a guest in our house, and you've been nothing but rude and disrespectful since you arrived. So yes, I'm asking you to leave. Now." "This is unbelievable," Rachel said, grabbing her bag from beside her chair. "You can't handle someone challenging you, so you just remove them. This is exactly what I was talking about. You can't deal with anyone who doesn't bow down to you." Whoopi didn't take the bait. She stood there, arms crossed, waiting. "Rachel, you weren't challenging anyone. You were being disrespectful and hostile. There's a difference. Now please, leave the stage." Rachel looked around at the other hosts, perhaps expecting someone to come to her defense, but no one did. They all sat there, clearly uncomfortable, but united in their support of Whoopi. The audience remained silent, watching this disaster unfold. "Fine," Rachel said, her voice dripping with contempt. "I'll leave. But everyone watching this needs to know what kind of person Whoopi Goldberg really is. She can't handle the truth. She can't handle someone standing up to her. She's nothing but a bully with a microphone." "Security," Whoopi called, her voice cutting through Rachel's rant. "Please escort Ms. McAdams out of the building." 2 security guards appeared from the wings almost immediately. Rachel's eyes widened, clearly not expecting that response. "You're calling security on me? Are you serious right now?" "Completely serious," Whoopi replied. "You've been asked to leave multiple times, and you're still here causing a scene. These gentlemen will show you out." Rachel looked at the security guards, then back at Whoopi, then out at the audience. For a moment, it seemed like she might try to continue her tirade, but something in Whoopi's expression must have told her that this was truly over. "This isn't finished," Rachel said, pointing at Whoopi as she started walking toward the exit, the security guards flanking her. "Everyone is going to hear about this. Everyone is going to know what really happened here today." "They already know," Whoopi said calmly. "They just watched it happen." Rachel stopped at the edge of the stage, turning back one more time. "You're going to regret this, Whoopi. You have no idea who you're messing with." Whoopi didn't flinch. "Rachel, the only person who should have regrets right now is you. You came here as our guest, and you chose to be disrespectful and hostile for reasons nobody understands. That's on you, not on me." The security guards gently guided Rachel off the stage. The cameras followed her exit, capturing every moment as she walked through the backstage area, still muttering angrily, still convinced that she was somehow the victim in this situation. Back on the stage, Whoopi took a deep breath and sat back down. The other hosts looked shaken but supportive. The audience didn't know whether to applaud or stay silent, so they did a bit of both, a scattered, uncertain response to an unprecedented situation. "Well," Whoopi said, looking directly into the camera, "that was unexpected. I want to apologize to everyone watching at home who tuned in expecting a normal interview. What you just saw was unfortunate, but it was necessary. We have standards on this show. We treat our guests with respect, and we expect the same in return. When someone can't meet that basic requirement, regardless of who they can't stay." One of the other hosts reached over and put a hand on Whoopi's arm, a gesture of solidarity. Whoopi nodded in appreciation. "Look," Whoopi continued, "I've been doing this for a long time. I've interviewed thousands of people. I've had disagreements, debates, even heated discussions. But what just happened wasn't a discussion. That was someone who came here with an agenda, with anger, and who decided to take it out on me and this show for reasons I honestly don't understand. The audience began to applaud more confidently now, showing their support for Whoopi's handling of the situation. She acknowledged them with a small smile. "I don't like having to ask anyone to leave," Whoopi said. "It gives me no pleasure to do that. But I also won't sit here and be disrespected in my own house. This show is built on conversation, on different viewpoints, on sometimes difficult discussions, but it's also built on mutual respect. You can disagree with me all you want, challenge my opinions, make me think differently. That's what good conversation does. But the moment you make it personal, the moment you start attacking people rather than ideas, that's when we have a problem." Another host jumped in, clearly wanting to support Whoopi. "You handled that with so much grace. I don't know how you stayed so calm." Whoopi shrugged. "You learn over the years that you can't control how other people behave. You can only control how you respond. Rachel chose to come out here and be hostile. That was her choice. My choice was to try to de-escalate, to give her opportunities to correct course, and when she wouldn't, to set a boundary. That's all any of us can do." The audience applauded again, louder this time. They understood that they had witnessed something significant. Not just a celebrity meltdown, but a masterclass in maintaining dignity under attack. "Hey, we're going to take a quick break," Whoopi said to the camera. "When we come back, we'll try to get the show back on track. Thank you all for your patience with that unexpected situation." As the show cut to commercial, the studio was buzzing. Audience members turned to each other, talking rapidly about what they'd just seen. The crew moved quickly, resetting the stage, trying to create a fresh start for the next segment. But everyone knew that this moment would be the thing people remembered about this episode. Backstage, producers were already dealing with the fallout. Rachel had been escorted to her car, still arguing with anyone who would listen. Her publicist was making frantic phone calls, trying to do damage control before the clips hit social media. But it was too late for that. In the control room, the producers knew that this footage would be everywhere within the hour. Back on set, Whoopi sat quietly during the commercial break, collecting her thoughts. The other hosts rallied around her, offering support and praise for how she'd handled such a difficult situation. She thanked them, but seemed more concerned with making sure the rest of the show went smoothly. "Okay, everyone," a producer called out. "We're back in 30 seconds. Whoopi, are you good to continue?" Whoopi nodded. "I'm fine. Let's do this." The cameras came back on, and Whoopi's professional demeanor was firmly back in place. She transitioned smoothly into the next segment, never mentioning Rachel again, never dwelling on the drama. It was a deliberate choice, a way of saying that while what happened was significant, it wouldn't define the entire show. Throughout the rest of the episode, there was an underlying current of energy, a sense that everyone had been through something together. The audience seemed more engaged, the hosts more connected. Sometimes adversity brings people together, and that's what seemed to be happening in real time. When the show finally ended, Whoopi stayed on stage for a few extra minutes, talking with audience members who had questions or just wanted to express their support. She was gracious with everyone, taking time to listen and respond thoughtfully. One audience member asked, "Have you ever had to do that before? Kick someone off the show?" Whoopi thought for a moment. "Not like that, no. We've had guests who weren't great fits, or interviews that didn't go well, but nothing quite that hostile or personal. It's not something I ever want to do again. But I'd do it again if I had to." Another person asked, "Do you think she'll apologize?" Whoopi smiled sadly. "I don't know. I hope she does. Not necessarily to me, but to herself. Because that kind of anger, that kind of hostility, it's not healthy. It hurts the person carrying it more than anyone else. Whatever she's dealing with, I hope she finds peace with it." It was a remarkably generous response, given what had just happened. But that was classic Whoopi, finding compassion even for someone who had treated her so poorly. As the studio finally emptied out, Whoopi gathered her things and prepared to leave. A young production assistant approached her nervously. "Whoopi, I just wanted to say thank you for how you handled that. It was really scary when she started yelling, and you just stayed so calm and professional. It made all of us feel safer." Whoopi gave the young woman a warm smile. "That's kind of you to say. The thing is, when someone is being aggressive or hostile, the worst thing you can do is match their energy. That just escalates everything. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay calm, set clear boundaries, and not let someone else's chaos become your chaos." The production assistant nodded, clearly taking the words to heart. "I'll remember that." As Whoopi walked out of the studio that day, she could have had no idea just how much attention this incident would generate. Within hours, clips of the confrontation were viral. Everyone had an opinion. Some people criticized Rachel for her behavior. Others tried to defend her, suggesting there must have been something that happened off camera to explain her hostility. A few tried to blame Whoopi, claiming she should have been more patient or understanding. But the overwhelming response was support for Whoopi. People recognized that she had handled an impossible situation with grace, firmness, and professionalism. She had given Rachel multiple chances to correct her behavior. She had remained calm and respectful, even when being attacked. And when it became clear that the situation wasn't going to improve, she had done what needed to be done. The incident became a talking point across all forms of media. Other talk show hosts discussed it on their shows. Entertainment journalists analyzed every moment. Social media was flooded with reactions, memes, and hot takes. Everyone had something to say about what went down on The View that day. What made this incident so compelling wasn't just the drama of it, though that certainly played a part. It was the contrast between the two women in that moment. Rachel, seemingly unable to control her emotions or behavior, lashing out at someone who had done nothing to deserve it. And Whoopi, demonstrating the kind of emotional intelligence and professionalism that comes from years of experience dealing with difficult situations. In many ways, the incident became a teaching moment. It showed the importance of respect in public discourse. It demonstrated that having fame or success doesn't give you the right to treat others poorly. It reminded people that there are consequences for bad behavior, even for celebrities. For Whoopi, this was just another day navigating the complex world of live television. She had faced controversies before, dealt with difficult guests before, and weathered storms of criticism before. This was different in its intensity and its virality, but it wasn't going to shake her. She had been through worse and come out stronger. The View continued on, as it always does. The next episode featured a different guest, a different conversation, a different energy. But the Rachel McAdams incident remained a reference point, a moment that people came back to whenever discussions of on-air conflicts or celebrity behavior came up. In the world of live television, where anything can happen, and often does, this stood out as a particularly dramatic example of what occurs when preparation meets chaos, when professionalism meets hostility, when boundaries have to be enforced in real time with the whole world watching. Whoopi Goldberg had spent decades building her reputation as someone who speaks her mind, but also listens, who can be tough, but also compassionate, who stands her ground without being cruel. The way she handled Rachel McAdams that day reinforced all of those qualities. She didn't lose her temper. She didn't get defensive or petty. She simply set a boundary and enforced it, clearly and firmly. For anyone watching, whether in the studio that day or through their television screens at home, it was a reminder that respect is not optional. It's not something you can choose to give only when it's convenient or when you're in a good mood. It's a fundamental requirement for civil discourse, for productive conversation, for human interaction that doesn't devolve into chaos. Rachel McAdams walked onto that stage with some kind of agenda, some anger or frustration that she decided to unleash on Whoopi Goldberg and The View. Maybe she thought her status as a Hollywood star would protect her from consequences. Maybe she thought she could say whatever she wanted without repercussions. Maybe she was genuinely going through something difficult and handled it in the worst possible way. Whatever her reasoning, she learned that day that there are limits. That even in the world of entertainment, where drama and conflict are often encouraged for ratings, there are lines you don't cross. That treating someone with disrespect and hostility will not be tolerated, regardless of your fame or your accomplishments. The 32 seconds that started this entire confrontation, those first moments when Rachel made it clear she wasn't there to have a normal conversation, you set the tone for everything that followed. It was like watching a train slowly derailing, with everyone hoping it could be pulled back onto the tracks, but knowing deep down that it was already too late. Whoopi tried. She really tried. She gave Rachel chances to reset, to start over, to explain what was bothering her in a constructive way. But Rachel wasn't interested in constructive conversation. She was interested in confrontation, in making a scene, in tearing down rather than building up. And so Whoopi did what she had to do. She protected her show, her colleagues, her audience, and herself. She drew a line and said, "This far and no further." It wasn't easy, and it wasn't pleasant, but it was necessary. In the end, that's what people remember about this incident. Not just the drama of a celebrity being kicked off a talk show, but the dignity with which Whoopi handled an undignified situation. The calmness she maintained in the face of chaos. The firmness she showed when firmness was required. It was a moment that reminded everyone watching why Whoopi Goldberg has had such a long and successful career. Why she's respected not just as an entertainer, but as a person. Why she's someone who can navigate the complicated waters of live television with skill and grace. The View studio that day saw something extraordinary. It saw someone lose control completely, and it saw someone maintain control completely. It saw anger met with calmness, disrespect met with dignity, chaos met with clarity. 32 seconds was all it took for Rachel McAdams to show who she really was in that moment. And the rest of the segment showed who Whoopi Goldberg has always been. A professional, a leader, someone who knows that respect is earned through action, not demanded through volume. The audience members who were there that day got more than they bargained for when they came to see a taping of The View. They got a front row seat to a clash of personalities, a test of character, and a demonstration of what happens when someone crosses a line they shouldn't have crossed. They watched Rachel McAdams, a talented actress with a successful career, throw it all away for a moment of anger and ego. They watched her burn bridges in real time, alienate an audience, and damage her reputation, all because she couldn't control her temper or her tongue. And they watched Whoopi Goldberg do what she does best. Stand her ground, protect her space, maintain her dignity. Show that you can be strong without being cruel, firm without being harsh, decisive without being impulsive. It was television history in the making, the kind of moment people would talk about for years to come. Not because it was entertaining in the traditional sense, but because it was real, raw, unscripted in a way that most television never is. This was not a planned controversy designed to boost ratings. This was not a publicity stunt choreographed by savvy publicists. This was real conflict between real people happening in real time, with real consequences. And when the dust settled, when the shouting stopped, and the security guards had escorted Rachel McAdams out of the building, what remained was a clear picture of two very different approaches to conflict, two very different levels of professionalism, two very different ways of being in the world. Rachel chose chaos. Whoopi chose calm. Rachel chose attack. Whoopi chose boundaries. Rachel chose to burn it all down. Whoopi chose to maintain order. In those choices, in those moments, everything was revealed. Character isn't what you show when things are going well. It's what you show when things are falling apart. And on that day, on that stage, with those cameras rolling, both women showed exactly who they are. One showed that fame and success mean nothing if you don't have basic respect and self-control. The other showed that true power comes not from dominating others, but from maintaining your own integrity and peace, regardless of what chaos swirls around you. The lesson was clear, even if it was delivered in the most dramatic way possible. You can be talented, successful, famous, and powerful, but none of that gives you the right to treat others poorly. And when you do cross that line, there will be consequences. Even if you're Rachel McAdams, even if you're on national television, even if you think the rules don't apply to you. They do apply. They always apply. And Whoopi Goldberg made sure everyone watching understood that message loud and clear.